Hello and welcome to Conquer a Parenting Podcast with Amric McCullough. Amric is a mother of three, parenting coach, and occupational therapist. My name is Scott. I am a father of one and a math and ESL educator. On today's show, we will be discussing how to homeschool a child who has special needs with Amy Mattson. We will get to that interview right after this short break.
Hey, Amric here. Has your child been recently diagnosed with special needs? Are you hearing words like autism, Down syndrome, ADHD, developmental disability, or dyslexia? If so, I bet you're feeling guilt, self judgment, lack of self confidence, or relationship struggles. Things that work for other parents just don't seem to work for you, and you're feeling overwhelmed. All of this is much easier and more efficient if you have the right support, coach, and mentor on your side who understands what you're going through and knows how to help you, your child, and your family thrive. I specialize in coaching parents of special needs children on how to parent and think differently, which creates lifelong solutions for their entire family. If you're ready to gain self confidence, lose the guilt, and take control back of your life, check out my website, conquersmp.com, and sign up for a free breakthrough session today. I look forward to hearing from you. Again, my website is conquersmp.com. Our guest today is Amy Mattson, founder of RaisingTheExtraordinary.com. Amy is a mother of two children who have special needs. Today, she is here to talk to us about homeschooling a child with special needs. Amy, welcome to our show. We're so excited to have you here.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
So you have kids with special needs. One, from what I understood from your website, one goes to public school, and you've decided to homeschool your son, correct?
Yes.
So why did you decide to homeschool your son? I guess let's start there. Let's hear a little bit about your journey.
So our son actually attended public school in kindergarten and then preschool as well. Preschool was just half day, a couple days a week. So that wasn't as big of an issue for him. But once he started attending kindergarten, we noticed a lot of behaviors develop in him from the first day of school. He was he had always been emotional and kind of impulsive, but it really escalated in the school setting.
Okay.
At the time, I didn't know much of anything about autism, so I had no idea that that's what he was struggling with. But I think just the sensory overwhelm that he was experiencing was causing him to have meltdowns. He started hitting himself, running from the classroom. He learned early on making threatening comments would get him sent home. So that's what he did. So he didn't have to stay.
Smart.
Right. Yes. He picked up on things quickly. So we struggled through kindergarten. We thought maybe he just needed a period of time to adjust. Maybe Christmas break would help and then he'd be better. And that none of those things helped. So he did go to school through kindergarten, but as the school year was going on, my husband and I started talking about it and considering it and weighing our options. And we just felt that at the end of the day, that was going to be the best setting for him, was just to learn at home away from all of the distractions and the sensory stimulation at school.
Yeah, it sounds like I'm an occupational therapist, and I've worked with pediatrics, all different. So it sounds like a very similar situation to many kids that I've treated. Now, was your kindergarten full day or was it half day?
Yes, it was full day, 5 days a week. Yep.
Yeah, that can be difficult too.
Yes.
I've seen that where it's like the whole day, it's just too much sensory. If you have a lot of sensory, stimulation problems, it can be just, like you said, too overwhelming. The lights are too loud, people brushing up against you. There's so many little nuances that a lot of people and a lot of kids can just handle. And, some kids with those issues, it's like, I always say, if walking down the hall it's very loud, but to someone who has like auditory processing problems and it sounds like they're in a stadium and the stadium is literally like right in their ear, so it's hard. So I can understand that. I can understand why you guys decided. So homeschooling, I have 3 kids, so they're all my oldest son was I was like, "Can you just homeschool me?" Because he didn't like to go to school. And I was
Sure.
like, "No, I can't. I am not a homeschooler. I love you, but you need to go." And he didn't really have any issues where, homeschooling would be for him.
Sure.
So homeschooling, for some parents could be like scary, just the word alone. But now you add on a disability. And I think some parents are like, whoa, I'm like, that seems impossible. I don't feel equipped to do that. So what kinds of supports like did you get? Like tell us a little bit more about that for parents that are interested in homeschooling.
Sure. Yep. Well, when we first initially started homeschooling our son, we didn't have any of his diagnoses yet. So
Okay.
I didn't have the added intimidation of homeschooling special needs. I just thought I was going to be
Right. You
homeschooling
were
my
like,
child.
yeah, that's
Right.
actually probably good. That was probably
It
good.
was, yes. It didn't take long. About a year later, we finally got some answers on that front. As far as supports go, I actually do have a background in being homeschooled myself. So I had my
Okay.
mom to go to, which was incredibly helpful. Individuals from our church who homeschool. Facebook groups have been huge, especially when you
Okay.
add the special needs factor into that. There are Facebook groups that are specifically for homeschooling special needs children or kids with dyslexia and so forth. So
Right.
those have been very helpful. Homeschool conventions, oftentimes you'll find some resources there that are geared towards kids with special needs as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, do you use a certain kind of homeschooling program? How do you do it?
So I change things up every year. Um,
Okay.
the only thing that I really haven't changed is once we found out that our son has dyslexia, I had changed to a curriculum that was Orton Gilliam based because that is how a dyslexic child will learn best. So
Okay.
that program I stuck to, and he has done well with that. Most curriculums, when it comes to homeschooling, there's so many different ways to go about it. There's no one right or wrong way as long as you're doing something. So I do a lot of experimenting, so to speak, to see what's going to work best for our son as far as his learning and comprehension goes. So um, I do tend to mix things up there a little bit. There are things that are geared more towards kids that have special needs. I adapt a lot of things too.
Okay.
I might shorten lessons a lot. Um, we take frequent breaks. Sometimes he's
Right.
jumping on the trampoline while I'm reading to him,
Okay.
those
Okay.
sort of things.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think, it does help with all that those sensory things when you can just focus on learning and implementing the sensory stuff as you go. So that's good. What types of things do you have at home for the sensory? So you said you have like a little mini trampoline. Do you have a therapy ball? What kinds of things do you
Um,
have?
we have a we have the little mini trampoline. We recently got a swing to hang up in the basement.
Okay.
That still needs to get hung up. A lot of times I'll send them outside to play on our swing set too. Not so much lately because we're in Minnesota and it's cold, but we have different fidget things that he can use. The biggest thing that we've found to help calm him if he starts to feel overstimulated or frustrated in order to curb a meltdown, one of the things that we found best to calm him is just letting him put his headphones on and listen to a song or two on his iPad.
Okay.
And then he's, ready to go and start again.
Okay.
Um, so, yeah, things like that. We're, slowly figuring out what he likes and doesn't like as far as sensory stuff goes. So,
Yeah. No, that's good. Those are all good things. I think a lot of parents probably have some of those things already in their house,
yeah,
so you could just kind of incorporate those into the learning, as you're going. So
right.
what's your favorite thing about homeschooling? What do you think?
Um, my favorite thing in general about homeschooling would be just, having that extra time with our child that we can have some good quality time together. I'm able to help guide him through some of the tougher things. We have more flexibility if we want to go and explore things, if he's got something that he's really excited or interested in at the time, I can maybe just throw something in regarding that into our homeschool day, like a documentary or something on, whatever he's into, animals or whatever.
Right. The Titanic or whatever.
Right. So from a general homeschooling standpoint, that would be my favorite thing. When you throw the special needs on top of there, my favorite thing is that I am able to help guide him through overcoming some of the obstacles that he has in life. And he's able to do it in a setting where he's at home and comfortable and not being flooded with sensory stimulation all day long.
Yeah.
So I'm able to, especially as he gets frustrated, especially early on with his reading and spelling, that was a big trigger for him with his dyslexia. It was just naturally harder. So just being there to help guide him through that and help him not to get stuck in this I'm stupid mindset and help him to achieve, and reach his potential in those areas has been rewarding for both of us, I think.
Right. Like you can see him in a different light almost,
Right.
And he can see himself and not be judged in a way.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So
yep. He doesn't need to worry about keeping up with peers.
Right. And that can be really great because, kids do start to get into the I'm stupid because they'll look at the tests, the person their peer next to them, they got 100 and, why am I always getting 50s? Why am I always getting 70s? So it's hard, definitely. Cause I deal with that. My one son has dyslexia. And I have dyslexia. So I dealt with the same thing.
Sure.
And I remember those same feelings. Like I'd come home and I would just be like, I'm so stupid, it just, and I mean, I've worked on it. I'm good. Like, I don't think I'm stupid anymore, but I really do. When my son says stuff like that, it brings me back. So I think that you're right. Like it's almost giving like a little bit of not a cocoon, but a little bit of a cocoon in terms of, letting him find out who he is and figuring out the world at his pace. Like, I think, that is really cool. So what are some things that aren't like so great about homeschooling? What's the nitty gritty of it?
Things that are not so great. Well, I work from home as well, so sometimes
that's a little stressful.
Right. It has gotten better. He's getting more independent with things, so he's able to do some of his subjects independently now. So for me, probably the biggest thing is he gets excessive with his talking and super hyper focused on whatever it is, like Minecraft or whatever, and he'll talk about it, and you'll try to he doesn't pick up on the social cues that I need to focus on this, can you give me 5 minutes? But that's just something that we're working on with him as a person too, not necessarily homeschooling. I really can't think of a negative thing when it comes to it. There have been moments of frustration.
Right. You're only human. He's only human. Right. Yeah. Any situation has its, ups and downs and things like that.
Yeah.
Oh, but that's great.
Can I ask quickly? Do your children ever get any jealousy between them where one gets to go to homeschool and one has to go to public school? Do they ever have any kind of confrontation on that front?
They really don't. Our daughter loves going to school. She actually currently, what we're doing with her is she goes to school in the mornings and then in the afternoons she has ABA therapy. So she's kind of doing both right now. She loves school. She spends, because she's only there half a day, most of her time is actually spent in the special education department. But she enjoys that. My son, on the other hand, he will flat out tell you that public school is miserable and he never wants to go back. So No, no, not really. Sometimes our daughter gets a little confused, like, why is he staying home? But she's never voiced that she wants to stay home too. So, no, that hasn't really been a problem. I could see where with other families that might be. And if our daughter's needs were not as complicated as they are, with her cerebral palsy, she needs hand over hand help with absolutely everything. She's, in her wheelchair, so she's not independent in any way. She has autism as well, and she's more on the moderate to severe end of the spectrum. So I felt like if I kept her home, I wouldn't be able to give our son the attention that he needed because she requires so much care, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. 'Cause
Yeah,
if there's multiple people that need to be involved with her,
right.
like speech and OT and, a special ed teacher and, all those things. And she needs like a para, like
Yep.
like a one-on-one. So
Yes.
yeah, I can understand that, why you did that. And I think she probably likes the socialization. I would think that
She,
it's good for her,
yeah,
to be in there.
she does. And our son loves socialization too. He still gets it even though he's homeschooled. He plays with the neighbors when they're home from school all the time.
Oh,
We do
good.
different things. We're in a homeschool group where we do different things, like every week they
Activities.
go ice skating or, art
Right.
classes sometimes, so he still has that socialization um in his life. He's not,
Right.
sheltered
Isolated.
from it.
Right.
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 But yeah, it's just not all day, every day in school.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Right.
I think that's good. And like you said, it works for your son and it wouldn't work so much for your daughter. So I think
Right.
you have to figure out what is going to work for your individual children and kind of work around it.
Absolutely.
Work
Yep.
around it. So I was reading your blog about why should we tell our kids they have a disability, and I liked your blog a lot. It really touched me because I remember telling my son, my husband and I, we told our son that he had dyslexia, and so I just wanted to share, with the listeners about your blog and your article, and just give a
Sure.
little, your thoughts on that topic.
Sure.
So, oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
No, no, it's you. It's all you. Sorry.
So the reason I think it's important to tell our children is, and I think the reason is just as important as far as having them evaluated and assessed for learning disabilities. If you think there's something going on, a lot of people are so afraid of the so-called label that comes with it. But it's really not a label. It's a diagnosis that can help your child, and it can help you be a parent to your child. So I think that if you're suspecting that there's something different about your child, then your child is probably suspecting that themselves.
Right.
They're perceptive. They're not clueless as to what's going on. They can see, homeschooled or not, they can see,
Right.
what their
Absolutely.
peers are doing versus what they're doing. So I think that it's important to tell them and, not try to hide it. I think when we hide it, then it's almost like it's a bad thing.
Hmm.
And eventually they're going to find out anyway. So, I mean, I'm not saying, tell them at an appropriate time when they're able to handle the truth and understand the truth. Don't tell
Right.
your 2-year-old or whatever, because they just won't understand yet. But um, I do think that it's important because if they grow older, like I said, eventually they're going to come to terms with it or know what's going on. And they'll be like, well, why did you keep this from me? And think that there's something bad about them because of it. Like it was
Right.
hidden, like a hidden little secret that we didn't want people to know about. So I think that if we can teach them early on, just how their brain is processing information differently, we can teach them, hey, this isn't a bad thing, and show them, different strengths that, for
Right.
example, people with dyslexia are more creative,
Mm.
generally, just simple
Yeah.
things like that. We can point out what their strengths are and correlate that to, um, whatever that unseen disability is that they have. and,
Right.
just kind of go from there and encourage them with how to learn. And we can also acknowledge the fact that, yeah, it's hard. Like with dyslexia, I can acknowledge this. I know this is hard for you. I know that you don't
Right.
like having dyslexia, and I know it's hard, but I also know that you can do it. And that's why
Right.
what we're working on, and, kind of help them not to get stuck in that negative feeling about
Yeah.
themselves again.
No, it's so true. And I think, too, sometimes parents are afraid to hurt their children, or
Yeah.
they're afraid to, shield the truth because maybe they haven't processed the
Yes.
fact that their child has, is different.
Yep.
And in our society, different is bad. And
Right.
in my world of being a therapist and having dyslexia, I'm like, different is awesome. Different is
Right.
amazing. I wish we could just change the perception of different, because
Yes.
every single person, it doesn't matter who it is, they have something special about them. If someone can't talk, can they give a good smile? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it just, so I totally appreciate that. And I do think sometimes parents are afraid because they haven't processed it and they want to cushion the journey. But man, you're not cushioning anything if you don't
No.
tell the truth. You are
Right.
actually making it, like you said, that you're making it worse. You can make it worse because your kid is struggling and it's their journey. There's no
Right.
you're the parent. It's your
Right.
job to lead them, not anything else. So I think it
Yes.
is important to tell them, like you said, at an appropriate time, and lead it into, like, you have this, but here's the good side of it. Here's the positives. And you can always find positives as parents. That's our job, to find
Right.
positives in our kids, especially when they're struggling and need us the most. So I think that if we could shout it to the rooftops, like, I totally agree with you with that. So, okay, let's see, where are we at? The other thing I saw on your Instagram post, you posted this little picture, and the title was "A Special Needs Family is a Circle of Strength and Love. Every crisis faced together makes the circle stronger." I just love that. I loved that saying because it's so true. Because parents who have kids with special needs are really strong people, and they're stronger than they know it, and that everybody else around them knows it, because you
Yeah.
are really challenged every day. There's not one day that goes by where you're not like, okay, give me strength, I got to get through this, whatever it
Right.
is.
Yes.
So I love that. And that brings me into your new book, right? You wrote a new book, so can you tell our listeners about that?
Yeah. So the book is called Beyond the Diagnosis: The Path to Thriving as a Special Needs Parent. And the purpose behind the book was, so many times, we go to the doctor gives us this diagnosis. They say, go get, physical and occupational therapy, come back and see me in 6 months. And you're just like, what
What?
just happened here? So you're like, as someone who your child is just recently diagnosed, you can go online, you can find all sorts of things regarding your child's diagnosis in and of itself, but not necessarily a lot of resources out there that help you to transition from what you thought was going to be this perfect life as a perfect family to now I have a special needs child. And that can still be a perfect life and a perfect
Right,
family, but
right.
you need to change your um, mindset and picture of what you had for your family is going to be completely different now. So my purpose of the book was to, you know, first of all, just be someone that other special needs parents can relate to, because that can be so hard to find, especially for people like myself who are in a rural community.
Right.
Um, and then the second part was to help them learn or share with them what I wish I would have known early in our journey, eh, for making that change to being a special needs family. So I talk about, when our children were first diagnosed and like the importance of grieving. Like I had no idea what that even meant until, we were
Right.
3-4 years into our journey as a special needs family. So grieving, different things that you might not think about, but things that you should be watching out for to really help you thrive, by things that are common, like isolation,
Right.
throwing yourself,
Depression.
right,
Right.
yes,
Yeah.
yep, things like that. And then, the happier things like advocating, and, well, I mean, not, I don't know if advocating is happy,
Right.
but
Well, yeah.
some of the more
With the
business end.
right mindset, advocating is
Right,
happy, right?
right,
It's,
right.
it's
So yeah, so moving beyond that initial grief and the hurt and loss that you're feeling, to the point where, um knowing how to thrive
right.
and really just embrace your new life and your new family, and celebrating the victories, and those little things, respite, self-care, not neglecting yourself, things
Right.
like that, that I just really wish someone would have told me from the
Yeah.
beginning. Or just, people who are struggling, maybe they, like myself, were down this road for a few years and just really struggling emotionally with
Yeah.
everything that comes along, because it is a struggle and there is a lot that goes with it.
Yeah,
But it can
it's
also
a
be
heavy
joyful.
load. It's a
Right.
very heavy load. And I think you're hitting it totally on the head, where you come to grips with it. You get this diagnosis, you come to grips with it. Now what? You're not going
Right.
to your kid's not going anywhere. You
Right.
you love your kid, but you're like, "What?" So what are the things? And I mean, just down to even relationship with your spouse, like, is
Yep.
there, so there's lots of things to think about. And I just love that. I love that you wrote that book. And I think that the world needs that, because I think there's a lot of people that maybe have some shame, or they don't, like I said, they don't want to admit, where they're at. And it's okay to admit that you're bummed out that your kid has a problem,
Yes.
because you don't want to see your kid struggle. that's
Right.
that's really where it comes from. It's not coming from, you're mad at your kid, or
Right.
but you're like bummed. You're like, man, it's gonna, like, I was so bummed when my kid got diagnosed with dyslexia. I was like, it's gonna stink. It's
Hmm.
really, but then I was like, well, I made it, so he's gonna make it too. But
Right.
in the beginning, I wasn't happy, because I knew what he was gonna go through. He was gonna
Right.
be crying, and he's gonna hate himself, and all that stuff. So I understand how parents don't want to face it, but not facing it is not going to help your kid.
Right. That
It's
doesn't help anybody.
right. It doesn't help
Yep.
you, and it doesn't help your kid, and it kind of makes your life miserable. It can,
It absolutely can. Yep.
and when you're stuck in that one mindset. So I think, oh, it's just great what you're doing.
Thank you.
I'm passionate about it too, because I see it all the time. So I think we got to change the mindsets of parents, and that will change the world of the kids. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So
And
where
Amy, I
can
know we have
oh
listeners
sorry.
out there who are, going down the same journey, who have the same struggles. Where can they find out more information? Where can they find your book? Where can they reach out?
So my blog and website is raisingtheextraordinary.com. And the book will be available at the end of March here, or actually, it'll be available early April. I haven't had the official date yet. Sorry, but it will be available through most online retailers like Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com. I'll probably have a link to it on my website as well. So I'm excited for it to come out, and I just hope that it will be a source of help and comfort and encouragement to other parents out there like myself.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be great. And we're excited. I'm excited to read it. So I can't wait.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on our show, Amy. I
Yeah,
really I
thank
really
you.
enjoyed our conversation.
Yes, thank you. Me too.
Thanks, Amy. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
This segment of the show is brought to us by mathradio.com. Mathradio.com offers educational math courses for students between the ages of 7 and 17. So if your child is in the 3rd grade, 7th grade, or even high school, they have courses for you. Sign up today at mathradio.com for any math course for only $9.99. Help your kids do better in class, get better grades, score higher on exams, and even get into college. Act now and get your courses at mathradio.com for as little as $9.99. Again, that is www.mathradio.com. Emric and I want to take this opportunity to say thank you once again to Amy Mattson for joining us today on the podcast. If you have any questions for us, please send an email to conquerpodcast@gmail.com, or you can find us on Instagram at Conquer a Parenting Podcast. We would greatly appreciate it if you gave us a 5-star review and rating over on iTunes to help us spread the word. On next week's show, Emric and I sit down with Buzz Bishop to discuss redshirting kindergarten. Emric and I hope you have an excellent parenting week. Bye for now.